Too often, I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. Again, barefaced lies. Too often, I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. Again.
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. You wouldn't wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah. You can feel me, we never wanna defend, yeah. Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shooting cold, overgrown, postal folded, barefaced lies.
Barefaced lies. Barefaced lies.
Hey Sham, you got a party, got that little party going on there. Keep to the left, you can't think right, so everything you do goes wrong, yeah. Incompetence just leads to disaster. Corruption brings it on even faster. What you say?
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. You wouldn't wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah. You think we never wanna defend, yeah. Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shit and cold, overgrown, postal folded, barefaced. That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. You wouldn't wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah. You think we never wanna defend, yeah. Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shit and cold, overgrown, postal folded, barefaced lies.
Barefaced lies. Barefaced lies.
Comrades, you always told us you'd build us all a new Jerusalem, yeah. You talk the talk, but when you walk, you only leave a crooked line there. And you don't see the trouble that's brewing if all you do is just what you're doing.
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. You wouldn't wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah. You think we never wanna defend, yeah. Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shit and cold, overgrown, postal folded, barefaced lies.
Is this where you wanna be? Debts and childhood poverty. Won't somebody set us free from this corrupt kleptocracy? Oh yeah.
Barefaced lies.
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. You wouldn't wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah. You think we never wanna defend, yeah. Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shit and cold, overgrown, postal folded, barefaced. That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. You wouldn't wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah. You think we never wanna defend, yeah. Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shit and cold, overgrown, postal folded, barefaced. That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. You wouldn't wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah. You think we never wanna defend, yeah. Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shit and cold, overgrown, postal folded, barefaced. That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. You wouldn't wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah. You think we never wanna defend, yeah. Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East Ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011, he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.
A very, very good evening. Sunday, the 6th of April 2025. My name is Raja Miah. This is one of those Recusant 9 transmissions. They are now, of course, all free to air. In fact, I'm just not liking my chair at the moment. It's a bit low. There you go. That's better. My camera fell over. Is the news of my week, but it's still in one piece. I was trying to mess things around and move things around, and it got complicated. So we say I've spent the last hour trying to put the tripod back together. These broadcasts are all now free to air, so very, very good evening to everyone from wherever you are. I'm forever amazed that people tune in and decide they want to spend their Sunday evenings with me. We've been at this for the best part of 6 years now. Probably, I don't know how many years. Is it 3 years, 4 years? Probably about 4 years now. We, at least, were this Sunday evening became a ritual. And yeah, here we are. At the very least, please like the broadcast. There's always one every week. I look to my screen to the right, and there's always one every week who puts a thumbs down. They either do it by accident because I've not said anything yet, or they just turn up to be negative. So who knows? Indeed, Faye. Faye messaged me actually. I was in Cheltenham. I went to speak at a conference for UK Column. Now, UK Column were promoting me and supporting me before I even knew they existed, to my embarrassment. And if they do anything, they talk about the deep state is what they do, and how the machinery of the state comes after people who speak out against the sort of things they want covering up. So that's what the conference was. There's about 350 to 400 people there. They'd come from all over the place. It was packed. And it's been a long time since I last gave any form of keynote, some sort of presentation in a formal environment. It's been a long time, best part of 10 years. I was reflecting. And what I always do is I draft something, but I draft it because I was always taught that you should gauge the audience and adapt what you present depending on who they are, where they're coming from, and what their needs are. So you tailor it to your audience. So this was an audience I'd never met before. So I turned up and I spoke to people, and on the Friday night I'm redrafting my presentation. But it all went very, very well. Thank you so much, Jane. It all went very, very well. I'm sure they'll release it online at some point, and once they've released it, I'll share it with you. And what I realized whilst I was sharing the work, and I'm looking around, and I genuinely get to see people's faces. Thank you. I genuinely get to see people's faces, and I'm looking and I'm thinking, I should do this more often. I should go out and meet people more often. So I'm now committed. I've cleared my diary on a Monday and Tuesday up to the summer holidays, apart from the school holidays for obvious reasons. So up to August, I've cleared Monday and Tuesday. So if you belong to a group somewhere in the country, whether you're some sort of political group like a branch of Reform somewhere in the country, or a branch of the Conservative Party somewhere in the country, or even a knitting club, as I described, or even a knitting club, I will come and present and do a live presentation. There'll be a speaker, and I can comfortably manage 2 hours with you anywhere in the country. The only ask I have is that there's enough of you for it to be worth my while. And when I say enough, at least a dozen upwards, and I'll travel anywhere, and you cover my fuel. No more than that. My work is free, so I don't charge a fee at all. So that's the offer. Cover my fuel, and I'll drive anywhere in the country and speak to you, as long as there's enough of you who are interested in really genuinely understanding this issue and these issues that I talk about. So hopefully some of you will take me up on the offer. Just email me, Raja, that's RAJA, at rajamiah.com. I'll type it in here so there's no ambiguity as to my email address. And I'll come over. So that's fine. So, someone from Manchester messaged me earlier. Just drop me an email. I'll come over. It's no problem whatsoever. I'll enjoy meeting people. I'll enjoy meeting people. I enjoy talking to people. So, and I very much enjoyed getting out, really, and meeting with people who had never met before and who'd never met me before, and how astonished they were at the story that I shared. So, no, Gary, answering Gary's question, it was worthwhile, Gary, all the way to Cheltenham and back. Now, my plans for this week are a series of shorter broadcasts, because I've been watching the broadcasts, I've been watching back, and whilst there's 233 of you now with me, whilst there's 233 of you with me right now, thank you. When we play it back afterwards, people don't watch all of it, so I think what I'm going to try and do this week is a series of shorter, sort of 45-50 minute broadcasts, an hour or so, and do it every night up to Wednesday night. So I've got something prepared for this evening, I've got something prepared for Monday, I've got something prepared for Tuesday, and of course there's the council meeting on Wednesday, so we might do a watch along followed by a transmission. So that's my aim. Good evening, Catherine. That's my aim. So let's see how we get on. And I want to do a precursor to this evening as well, please, is I am going to at one point critique something that Rupert Lowe's put out, and I know some of you get very partisan over this sort of stuff, but I am fair to everyone. I think I try and be fair to everyone, and it's not criticism. If any, it's not even constructive criticism. I'm trying to help. I'm trying to be helpful. So to Rupert and his team, first of all, my apologies. I missed Rupert's call. He called me on Thursday lunchtime. I had a horrible migraine. I was sick, and I was picking my daughter up from school. So I put my head down for an hour, and he called me from a withheld number. And I remember seeing it out of my eye that was closing, and I didn't pick it up because I thought it was someone else. So I will hopefully speak to him again this week. I messaged him back, so hopefully he'll get some time and give me a call during the week. But in terms of where we're up to, I've offered my services, and that's it really. I've heard nothing more. I know Sammy Woodhouse has been announced as part of the Rape Gang inquiry panel, and I think that's a very, very good appointment. I think she will. Someone like her is essential in actually working directly with the survivors. So yeah, I'm appreciative of that. I think it'll work out well for him. So I'm going to do something on Rupert Lowe, one element of something he said earlier on today. But I think there's only one place to start. And it's here. And of course, first and foremost, presumption of innocence and all of that. So please be careful. We have no idea what's gone on here. But MP Dan Norris has been arrested on suspicion of child sex offences and rape. I've never come across anything like this in my life, if I'm honest with you. So this is the guy who recently beat or won in Rees-Mogg's constituency. So MP Dan Norris, and I'll read it word for word, has been arrested on suspicion of rape, child sex offences, child abduction and misconduct in public office. It's just unprecedented. The Labour Party says it immediately suspended the MP for North East Somerset and Hanham after being made aware of his arrest. Avon and Somerset police confirmed that a man in his 60s was arrested on Friday and released on conditional bail. So he's not been charged, he was arrested and then released on conditional bail. BBC News has contacted Norris for comment. Of course, he's not going to say anything, is he? Norris, 65, was elected as the MP for North East Somerset and Hanham in 2024, defeating the Conservative MP Jacob Rees-Mogg. He had previously been in Parliament from 1997 to 2010, representing the seat of Wansdyke. So he's previously an MP. So between 1997 and 2010, so 1997 is when Tony Blair first came in. So we're clear, please, and people need to be very careful. He's not being charged or anything. Okay? So whoever you're talking about is not this guy, all right? And he can't say things like that either. Now, we either behave and I do this properly, or we just give up. Because this has happened before in the past when I went through some work and people got excited and said things, and in the end what happened was I was dragged through the courts with someone attempting to sue me. Okay, so please be careful. You're all grown up, you're all adults, you know how to behave. You can't say things like they're all in on it. And actually, when people do say things like that, it makes our cause, it's easier for people we need to convince to ridicule us. So thank you. Thank you very, very much. I know you didn't mean it. But unfortunately, people twist it. And they won't come and get you, they'll come and get me. Let's carry on. Norris, 65, was elected as the MP for North East Somerset and Hanham in 2024, defeating the Conservative MP Jacob Rees-Mogg. He had previously been in Parliament from 1997 to 2010, representing the seat of Wansdyke. The MP was a junior minister under Gordon Brown and was an assistant whip under Tony Blair. So he's of standing. Yeah, he isn't some random backbencher who's just got in this time round. He was an MP before, and he was an MP for 13 years, 3 terms, 1997 to 2001, 2001 to 2005, and 2005 to 2010. So 15 years, in terms of 3 terms he was an MP. Norris has also served as the mayor of the West of England since 2021, but is due to step down ahead of mayor's local elections. So after he stopped being an MP, he went and continued with his political life. According to the West of England Combined Authority website, Norris previously worked as an NSPCC trained child protection officer. This is the BBC. So he previously worked, a man who's been arrested, not charged, arrested for child rape, child abduction, suspicion of rape, child sex offences, child abduction. Previously worked as an NSPCC trained child protection officer. Thank you for being sensible, Robert. Most of the offences, this is the interesting bit, in a statement, Avon and Somerset Police said, in December 2024, we received a referral from another police force relating to alleged non-recent child sex offences having been committed against a girl. So this is historical. He's been arrested for. Most of the offences are alleged to have occurred in the 2000s. So if we cross-reference it, if it's in the 2000s, that is when he was MP under Tony Blair and then Gordon Brown. So most of the offences are alleged to have occurred in the 2000s, but we're also investigating an alleged offence of rape from the 2020s. An investigation led by officers within Operation Bluestone, our dedicated rape and serious sexual assault investigation team, remain ongoing and at an early stage. The victim, so it's singular, is being supported and given access to any specialist help or support she needs. So it's singular and it's a female. A man aged in his 60s was arrested on Friday on suspicion of sexual offences against a girl under the Sexual Offences Act 1956. So that's a child. Rape under the Sexual Offences Act 2003. Child abduction and misconduct in public office. He's been released on conditional bail for inquiries to continue. A Labour Party spokesman said on Saturday, Dan Norris MP was immediately suspended by the Labour Party upon being informed of his arrest. We cannot comment further whilst the police investigation is ongoing. The suspension means Mr Norris, the MP for North East Somerset and Hannam, is also understood to have had the party whip suspended, meaning he's not able to sit as a Labour MP in the Commons now. I would be very interested. Thank you, Denise. I would be very interested if he shows his face in the Commons whilst he's on bail for something such as this. I've never met the man. I know nothing about him. Even in 1997 and 2001 and up to 2005 when I was operating in that world, I'd never come across him. So I don't know. But for an MP to be arrested on suspicion and for the police to make reference, some very, very specific references to one historical crime and then also something more recent, and including child abduction, child sex offences, suspicion of rape. I've never seen anything like this. Okay. Right. I think it's clear what I did was no more than read the BBC article and share with you my initial thoughts of I'm in shock. I think you can see I'm in shock. We'll see how that proceeds, and I think there'll be more news coming out over the next week and months on this matter. But if he's been bailed, and I've been bailed myself in the past, if it's conditional bail, it means you've got to go back to a police station at a certain point, probably in a month or something. Your bail is up, and they'll either charge you, extend your bail, or let you go. Okay, so you can't enter the parliamentary estate, as you understand. Okay. I think you can see. I found out last night, and I was in shock last night, and I'm still in shock now. Now, moving on. Earlier on this week, the the KC, Tom Crowther, appeared at the Home Affairs Select Committee to give evidence. Now, I've got his entire testimony. It's an hour and a half long. My intention is, if you are interested enough, sufficiently interested enough, I will go through his entire testimony, stop it at key points, and talk through what is happening. And I plan on doing that exclusively tomorrow. So please, by all means, if you're interested in that sort of analysis, and I've done it before, but I know we've got so many more new people who've joined us, and I don't know what your appetite is. But if you're interested in that sort of analysis, let me know, and I will do my best to do that as a single item agenda tomorrow night. In the meantime, I have this. So Charlie Peters posted this tweet, and he was Tom Crowther KC, who is set to chair the Oldham CSE inquiry, has told the Home Affairs Committee that statutory powers to compel witnesses would not have made a difference for the Telford inquiry. He said that a witness, if summoned, could simply say that they don't remember. I have never heard any such nonsense. I've never heard any such nonsense in my life in this field. If evidence is put in front of a witness, if emails that he has sent or she has sent or was sent to him or her, if minutes of meetings they were involved in, if victims or survivors give alternative testimony, a witness saying simply that they don't remember would incriminate them. So I'm increasingly not comfortable. Increasingly not comfortable with what this man is up to. So he turned up to the Home Affairs Committee, and this is the BBC headline the day after, because the testimony he gave was just unbelievable. And part of his testimony was he phoned the Home Office, I think he phoned Jess Phillips or someone up, or text her or something, and asked, "Do you still want me?" Because after being announced as heading this up, it became very clear he was just another patsy. Now, I will play a video that the Conservatives put together, very well polished. It's only a couple of minutes, but I'll put that together. I'll play that, and then I will move on. But I think I want to set the scene.
In January, Labour caved to public pressure and promised action on the rape gang scandal, which shames our nation. But this week we've uncovered the truth. Labour have been secretly gutting each of their promises to victims behind closed doors.
Do you have faith that the other inquiries will actually come to existence?
I just don't know.
Labour's entire rape gang strategy has been a sham from the very start. Here is what you need to know. At the start of January, the government asked independent KC Tom Crowther, former chair of the Telford inquiry, to develop a new framework for local rape gang inquiries to be rolled out nationally.
She asked if I was prepared to work with the government on some sort of framework, and I said that I was.
Just 10 days later, Home Secretary Yvette Cooper stood up in the House of Commons and announced his involvement.
So Tom Crowther, KC, chair of the Telford inquiry, has agreed to work with the government to develop a new framework for victim-centred, locally led inquiries where they are needed. Tom Crowther, who did the Telford inquiry, will work with 5 areas. Local inquiries will be backed by £5 million of additional funding to get further local work off the ground.
The Home Secretary promised 3 key actions, but behind the scenes, something changed. By the 14th of February, the independent KC had heard almost nothing about his role. He was forced to call up the Home Office and ask them what was going on. The response? He was told by the government that he was out.
The draft framework was now to be ministerial and advisor drafted. It would be right to say that I have had no involvement in the development of the framework.
What that means is that Labour ministers have now taken control when they said that the rape gang inquiries would be independent. And that could mean that they water them down. And that's exactly what they did. On the 20th of March, an email from Home Office officials reveals that the £5 million initially promised for the 5 local inquiries would now be put into a competing fund instead. Labour have completely changed the rules since their initial announcement in January, meaning that local councils will now have to bid to have an inquiry. That is completely shocking and actually makes it much easier for areas like Keighley and the wider Bradford district to remove themselves from scrutiny. That's exactly why the Conservatives have been calling for a statutory inquiry, so that councils like Keighley and the wider Bradford district area cannot simply opt out from bidding and cannot shut an inquiry down. And it gets worse. In further correspondence from the Home Office, we now know that even if a local council does bid for a grooming gangs inquiry, Labour plan on letting them spend this money on options which they admit are short of a full inquiry, including victim and survivor engagement, scrutiny and follow-up. That is far short of the full independent local inquiries promised initially by the Home Secretary. In my view, this wasn't incompetence, this was deliberate. Labour said that an independent expert would develop the framework, then removed him and took him out of control. They said that 5 councils would investigate grooming gangs, but they've changed the rules so that councils like Bradford could avoid scrutiny. And then they pledged that £5 million would be allocated for full inquiries, then created a loophole so that the money could be spent on other options instead. Labour talked tough, but now, when the cameras are off, they plan on walking away. We cannot let Labour's sham rape gang strategy stand. That's why the Conservatives will be tabling an amendment to the Crime and Policing Bill, forcing a vote for a full statutory inquiry. That would mean that areas like Keighley and the wider Bradford district would be forced into having an inquiry rather than being allowed to simply say no. It would mean that taxpayer money funds a full inquiry, not a watered down alternative planned by Labour. And it would mean that victims in places like Keighley and the wider Bradford district, and indeed in the 50 towns across the United Kingdom, would get the justice that they deserved. The government must change course and use its powers to force a full independent inquiry across our towns and cities. Anything else would be a complete and utter betrayal.
So the Conservatives have got their own webpage, demandaninquirynow.com, and that's Mr. Moore from Keighley, who, to his credit, has been speaking out for some time and trying to force Bradford into an inquiry. And he also watched, or his team watched, the unprecedented testimony of Tom Crowther And he threw Yvette Cooper under the bus. I've never seen a KC go to a Home Affairs Select Committee and do what he did. And the pressure is getting to him. He made specific reference to posts on X about him. Now, the only one who's been posting on X about him and then it's been shared is myself, and I wrote an open letter to him as well, if you remember. Now, I get this, sorry Chloe, I'm not picking on you at all. I get you're all talking about different places that need to have inquiries. What Labour have fundamentally done is said it's up to local authorities to decide if they want an inquiry, and they can contact us. So who in the right mind is going to self-refer? No one self-referred. Every town or city where this has happened, they referred or were investigated or some form of inquiry because of horrific crimes that came to light, that couldn't be hidden, reported in the mainstream media, caused public outrage, or in towns like Oldham where there was this relentless campaigning that forced the politicians to act. No one self-refers. They wouldn't, would they? And then also what he is making reference to is the inquiries. When you self-refer, you don't self-refer for an inquiry. You can bid for victim and survivor support, whatever that means. And so on and so on. So he's now using the word we have been using collectively for a number of years. He's using the word sham. And it's a sham inquiry. So that is where we are up to with what's took place. Now, what Tom Crowther also released was he's spoken directly with the leader of Oldham Council, and Oldham Council have directly hired him, apparently. Which, again, is contrary to the Telford framework. Because the Telford style framework guarantees independence. The council do not appoint the investigator. And what he revealed was that the council contacted him or vice versa, and they've appointed him directly. So they've appointed the investigator, 1. 2, the council, he confirmed this as well, has appointed or is in the process of appointing the solicitors firm that will do the day-to-day face-to-face work. So the council appoint the judge, the council appoint the prosecution, or the defence, prosecution perhaps, and the council then appointed the witness support team, which they have confirmed independently is an organisation called COGS, Keeping Our Girls Safe. Any of you follow me on Facebook will have seen a kind of a spat I had with the founder of COGS, some young woman who goes by the strapline Jenny from the block or something. And apparently COGS has existed since 2011, and she could not see any issue with the fact that they were council funded and Greater Manchester Police funded. So the council has appointed as a witness support element of this inquiry COGS, an organisation they've funded for the best part of 15 years, who've never issued a public statement condemning the cover-up of the council failings or any of that. So the Oldham inquiry is increasingly looking like it's going to be rigged from the start, and it bears no resemblance to the Telford inquiry. There is a council meeting on Wednesday, and what should happen, particularly with the bit I go through next, is that the leader of the opposition, Howard Sykes, or the leader of the Conservatives, Max Woodvine, or the Pakistani sectarian, Kami G, whoever, should stand up and challenge that what they voted through was if the government rejected a public inquiry, then they were to commission a Telford-style inquiry. And whilst they've recruited the Telford judge, Crowther, the manner in which they've done it and the framework in which they've established for the inquiry to take place means it is not a Telford-style inquiry, because a Telford-style inquiry guaranteed as much as possible independence from the investigators and those who are being investigated. And it's completely the opposite in Oldham, including the appointment of a council and police funded so-called survivor support organisation. Indeed, Gary. So that's what has taken place there. Now, what I also want to share with you now is, alongside this, what also took place is that the government, the Home Secretary, has written back to Oldham Council, and they did that officially on the 12th of March. Now, I've sat on it for a while because I was waiting for the right time to share this. And the council we forced every councillor to write to the government demanding two things. One was a public inquiry in Oldham and our support for a national inquiry in the rest of the country, and that these local investigations were not good enough because they weren't statutory. So, this is the letter. You can see Home Office, Home Secretary, by email only, the 12th of March 2025. Now, the opposition should challenge this on Wednesday, but they've got no balls. They won't do any of this. If you're finding value, just before I go through this, if you're finding value in this evening's transmission and you're yet to do so, please at the very least like the transmissions. If you can, please consider buying me a coffee or a super chat. I am 100% community funded. There is no one other than yourselves who pay me, and that guarantees my independence, and the minimum wage means I can carry on. So please, if you can, buy me a coffee, buy me a samosa using one of the links, or best still, because it kind of guarantees where I'm up to in my life, is take out a subscription to Redwall and the Rabble. It is just £3 a month, or you can just pay for the full year for £30. It's pennies. It's 75 pence a week, and it makes all the difference to me. So if you haven't yet, please take out a subscription to Redwall and Rabble. If you haven't, feeling flush, or you don't want to and you just want to, sample one time, please consider buying me a coffee using one of these links. And please, whatever you do like and do share. Okay. The Home Secretary, and let me just take it down so you can see it. It's signed by Yvette Cooper, this one. So it's Yvette Cooper who writes back. And you can see straight away what she's claiming is that the letter that we wrote to her, that the council wrote to her, was regarding the next steps for Oldham's inquiry. It wasn't. That letter had nothing to do with the next steps for Oldham's inquiry. It was specifically requesting a public inquiry into Oldham and essentially rejecting what the Home Office had decided was going to happen. So no, it's not evasive, Robert. It's worse. No one wrote to Yvette Cooper regarding the next steps for Oldham's inquiry. They wrote to her rejecting the local inquiry and wanting a statutory-based public inquiry in Oldham and also wrote to her in support of a national inquiry. The government is committed to doing everything it can to tackle the horrific crimes of child sexual abuse and exploitation. This includes working closely with local areas to confront these terrible crimes, ensure perpetrators face the full force of the law, and provide vital support to victims and survivors. So straight away, you can see what is missing in that first paragraph. There is nothing there in terms of the government's commitment to holding to account those that failed the children, holding to account those who were complicit in the gang rape of these children, nor holding to account those involved in the cover-up. So you can see straight away it's already rigged. What they're saying it can't do or they won't do. As you will know, the Safeguarding Minister recently met with victims and survivors in Oldham. To this day, no one tells me how many victims and survivors she met with, and whether those victims and survivors were victims and survivors of the Pakistani rape gangs, or whether they were just victims and survivors in a wider sense. So if the Safeguarding Minister met with victims and survivors in Oldham, surely, and there's nothing about confidentiality, surely someone should confirm how many victims and how many survivors she met with. And then how these victims and survivors were identified, because my understanding is that these are the victims and survivors that Oldham Council has been wining and dining, or coffeeing and biscuiting. In this context, Oldham's decision to lead an independent local inquiry is commendable, and the Home Office stands ready to support the Council with this work as it progresses. Yet again, Oldham Council wrote to the government saying that the independent local inquiry was not of sufficient powers, did not have the sufficient powers, and they wanted a public inquiry. This woman is just, she's complicit in the cover-up, isn't she? As we have seen in examples including Telford and Rotherham, effective local inquiries can provide detailed context-specific insights and recommendations, driving real change at a local level. Rotherham's inquiry happened over 10 years ago. 2 weeks ago, last week, we heard how police officers had been arrested. There's a newspaper article I saw recently of counsellors being involved in raping these children. The context-specific insights and recommendations do not drive real change. They avoid justice and they circumnavigate accountability. This is why the government is developing a new framework for victim-centred local inquiries informed to established best practice tailored to meet the specific needs of communities. This is what Tom Crowther was supposed to be involved in, and he's now been told he's no longer involved in it, but they'll let him have comments. They'll accept comments of him. So who's developed it? Who in the government? To support local areas in confronting this challenge, I have announced a dedicated fund to help strengthen local responses to child sexual exploitation. That's the £5 million. because at entry level, getting justice for victims and protecting children is a responsibility we all share. In recognition of your commitment and the local work and engagement already underway, so we're patting you on the head, haven't you been a good little boy? The Home Office will make a direct award to Oldham Council to support this inquiry. So they will pay the council some money. How much? It does not say, but it is contingent upon your support in identifying and adopting the best practice principles outlined in our development framework. So they want the council, they're willing to give the council some money to conduct an inquiry that the council has already confirmed is not fit for purpose, because every one of them voted to confirm that. But you can do it as long as you follow the best practice principles. They've not even developed this new framework to confirm what the best practice principles are. And remember, up till January, they were avoiding this issue like the plague, and effectively claiming barefaced lies, and we were far-right conspiracy theorists. As with Telford and Rotherham, it would be up to your council to appoint an independent chairman and panel to lead the inquiry. That isn't what happened in Telford. The Rotherham inquiry was different. It was from over 10 years ago. And at that time, people didn't really believe what was taking place in Rotherham was taking place. But in Telford, the council did not appoint an independent chair. The Home Secretary doesn't even know what happened in Telford. Crowther himself confirmed it. In Telford, what happened was the council appointed a law firm. That law firm then advertised for the chair in the Guardian, and he saw the advert in the Guardian newspaper and applied for it. He then appointed a panel to lead the inquiry and all the support mechanisms around that. The council did not do that. So the Home Secretary is either lying or she doesn't even know what took place in Telford. It is, isn't it, Salia? Up to the council to appoint an independent chair and panel. Well, as soon as he's appointed or she's appointed, he's not independent. They're not independent if the council's appointed them. This will be important in sending a clear signal to victims and survivors and their families that Oldham is fully committed to a transparent and victim-centred local inquiry. Well, it's already clear Oldham isn't committed to a transparent and victim-centred local inquiry. And I'll give you another reason why. A number of weeks ago, survivors started coming to me and their families. One in particular that I trust implicitly, and shared with me how the police had started stalking her daughter, who was a survivor. He'd come unannounced to the house, knocked on the doors, and left messages. The messages included detailing how he had seen her in a pub and knew who she was. That's right, Greater Manchester Police are going around in the lead up to this, stalking survivors. I've seen the text messages, and I couldn't believe what I was reading. I've seen you in this pub at this time. I know who you are. I'd like to talk to you. Tell me I'm lying, Andy Burnham. Tell me I'm lying, Arood Shah. That's exactly what that is. Sorry, Anne, it's not shocking. That's terrifying. Simultaneously, the government is drawing up a duty of candour as part of the long-awaited Hillsborough Law. We are committed to strengthening the accountability mechanisms that can support and follow up local inquiries. Hold on a second. A duty of candour means they have a duty to tell the truth. Is that not a given already? And if you are drawing up a duty of candour, how will that, if it hasn't been implemented, impact upon this inquiry where it doesn't have any powers to compel witnesses? Yeah. We are committed to strengthening the accountability mechanisms that can support and follow up local inquiries to ensure that those who are complicit in cover-ups or who try to resist scrutiny are always robustly held to account and that truth and justice are never denied. What does that even mean? Look. We are committed. I'm committed to running 5 miles every day. Doesn't mean I do it. Just because you say you're committed, how are you committed? What are the measurements that will demonstrate your commitments? Nothing. Empty, hollow words. My officials would be happy to work with you and policing and justicing leads locally to ensure shared understanding of our expectations around candour in advance of the inquiry started to ensure that you can get the answers you need. So we're happy to work with you so you can get the answers you need. Not to uncover the truth. We're happy to meet with you and the police and justice leads, whatever they are, and coach you so you get to the outcome you need. More broadly, since my statement on the 16th of January, the Home Office has been engaging closely with local authorities and relevant stakeholders on the design and delivery of the National Fund to support locally led work in this vital area. Now we know that's nonsense because they make no reference to the local authorities. Who are they? Which local authorities? We have heard clearly that local authorities would benefit from support for a wider range of work to tackle group-based child sex exploitation and abuse, including addressing historic issues beyond establishing a full independent local inquiry. So that is the fudge. Give us some grants to do something else. Give us some grants to do something else. We are therefore developing a program which can support both local authorities like Oldham who want to launch these types of inquiry and those who want to take on more bespoke work, including areas in where inquiries have already taken place. Well, where have inquiries already taken place? A handful. For example, through establishment of local victims panels. I'm sure keeping our girls safe are relishing the prospect of some more money going their way. Conducting locally led audits into the handling of historic cases. This will enable areas to conduct meaningful work to deliver the truth, justice and accountability that victims and survivors deserve. What she is proposing will not deliver the truth, justice and accountability that victims and survivors deserve. Unless victims and survivors deserve more cover-ups. Finally, it is imperative that local leaders ensure that victims are fully aware of and can utilise the expanded right to review, which will now cover all cases of child sexual abuse and exploitation, no matter when they took place. So you can go down that rabbit hole, go down that dead end, and nothing will happen. Because who's going to investigate? Where investigations into allegations of child sexual offences have been closed with no further action, victims will be able to refer their cases to the Independent Child Sexual Abuse Review Panel through a dedicated email. Now, the question I would have of this Independent Child Sexual Abuse Review Panel, if it's existed for some time, is that how many cases has had referred to them, and how many cases, as a consequence of referrals, have been reopened and led to prosecutions, successful prosecutions. If I was a betting man, I'd say 0. This initiative aims to ensure that all victims have the opportunity for their cases to be thoroughly reviewed so that the truth can be pursued and justice can be served. Bullshit. As you will know, I have also appointed Baroness Louise Casey to lead a national audit of existing evidence on group-based CSE offending in order to gain a comprehensive national understanding of the scale, nature and characteristics of these crimes. That work is well underway and will report back in due course. No, it was meant to report back in about 10 days' time, because she omits it here. Look, the national audit was meant to be rapid, and 3 months was the date the Home Secretary herself set. The terms of reference have been published and a copy is attached. Well, that's got nothing to do with what the council was forced to write to the Home Secretary about. Local leadership is crucial in driving meaningful change, and I would like to express my sincere thanks for your ongoing dedication to addressing these devastating crimes. So she completely avoided saying no. Oldham Council wrote to the Home Secretary, we followed due democratic processes. An emergency council meeting, motions and amendments. Every councillor in that chamber unanimously votes to write to the Home Secretary wanting a public inquiry. The Home Secretary writes back and does not even do us the courtesy of saying no. She is treating everyone in this town and everyone across the country who cares about this issue as fools. And at Wednesday's council meeting, this issue should be raised by your democratically elected opposition councillors. In fact, it should be raised by the Labour Party leader Arud Shah, who should be outraged. The MP should have said something. McMahon, Abrahams, but we now know they are all complicit. They are all working together. The letter that went out from Shelley Kipling, remember, wasn't even a letter. She just copied and pasted the motion and sent it. And we are to expect these people to behave with integrity and dignity on this matter? No. This is nothing other than the continuation of a cover-up, and it is a sham. And this is the comprehensive undermining of democracy. Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, should be arrested for misconduct in public office. Because that is what this is. Misconduct in public office. When you are elected into positions of power, you do not get to decide what you can and cannot do. Because if you do get to decide what you can and cannot do, that is not democracy. That is tyranny. It is, Denise, a bigger sham than Burnham's sham. So, what happens next? I don't know what to say to you. The Home Secretary has just abused her position. We forced the council to write to her, demanding a public inquiry and in support of a national inquiry. She wrote back, ignoring both of the votes, both of the demands that we voted through. No one will challenge her. The opposition won't. Nationally, because I don't think they've even read this letter. The Conservatives are forcing another vote with another amendment, on this time on the Crime and Policing Act, I think. And reform, I don't know what to say. And Rupert Lowe are still bickering. Now, I shared with you last week how I felt Rupert Lowe's inquiry could be effectively used. Yeah, it was positive. I think I set out, it doesn't matter, it's not statutory. There are things it can do, there are things it should do, and this is how I'd go about doing it. I think I was fair and reasonable. Anyone? Disagree? What should happen, George, is the council should write back, outraged at the Home Secretary's failure to address the specific points. But we know the Labour Party leader and we know the chief executive who was involved in the communications team at the time of the cover-up. They won't do that. Okay. Rupert Lowe stuff. Yeah, good. Last week. So I'm waiting for people to catch up. I'll have a slurp of my Vimto. Whilst I'm slurping away, please, if you find value, like, share. Cost you nothing. Perhaps buy me a coffee if you can. It'll cost you £3. Or best still, if you're yet to do so, subscribe to Redwall and the Rabble. And I would be extremely grateful. these are the links whilst I'm waiting on people's to catch up. redwallandrabble.co.uk, and of course buy me a coffee /recusant9 or paypal.me /recusant9. Thank you very, very much. I've had 3 people subscribe this evening, so that's amazing. Thank you. I was laughing last week when I said 3 people, and my friend Gary said, you know, you do realise people perhaps misunderstood you laughing. I was like, yeah, I was laughing. I couldn't believe 3 people had signed up, because there were times in our journey where 3 people didn't sign up here, you know, in 6 months. Never mind sign up here or in one transmission. It's amazing. I was fair and reasonable. Yeah. All right. If you follow my work, you know I try my best. And I have nothing but admiration for, actually, if I'm honest with you, reform have really shaken up politics in the United Kingdom, even though they're not in power. The Conservatives have had to readjust as a consequence of what's took place there, and of course, Labour. Many of the things they're doing, they're only doing because they've now got opposition, even if it's a small opposition, saying things that is in tune with the national mood, I think. Okay. This is Rupert Lowe's Twitter feed. And he posted this, I think, yesterday. 2,000 retweets, 123,000 people have looked at it. If a foreign national knowingly turned a blind eye to mass rape, if they knew that their husband, cousin, brother or son was involved in raping vulnerable white girls and said nothing, even going as far to enable it, then they have no place in our country. I don't disagree with any of that before anyone says anything. Our inquiry will explore the extent to which families and communities were aware of the vile crimes and what social, cultural or religious factors prevented them from interfering. If they are not British citizens, they should not benefit from the hospitality, security and freedoms of this country while enabling some of the worst crimes imaginable. We are not interested in protecting the feelings of those who turned away while children were destroyed. I'm told by some, even former party colleagues, that deporting foreign nationals who were complicit in mass rape is too extreme. I comprehensively disagree. There is no middle ground here. If a foreign national protected a rapist, family member or friend, they should not be protected by the British state. They should be deported and never allowed back, without hesitation, without apology. Our inquiry will ask the right questions, not the easy ones. Sorry, I'm just looking. Mike indeed did sign up, so thank you very, very much. Louise, thank you. I'm not playing at this, Chloe. I think I've made clear 6 years of my life, risked imprisonment, faced death threats. There's still Islamist nutters trying to take me out to this very day, protected by Andy Burnham's Greater Manchester Police. And I think it's very clear that there are people who are jumping on this issue, and I'm happy that they are, because the more the merrier. But I have I believe, and expertise. And on this, I want to help Rupert. I want to help his team. And when I read things like this, he's not got a statutory inquiry, yeah? No powers to compel witnesses, no powers to go after evidence. We know our weaknesses. So when we know our weaknesses, we play to our strengths. That's what I was always taught. So we know without cooperation, there's no truth. And that's the core problem with Rupert Lowe's grooming gang inquiry. So when he announced his intention to launch an independent inquiry into the grooming gang scandal, you, me, thousands of us, tens of thousands of us welcomed it as a much needed alternative to years of whitewashed investigations. I just showed you a whitewashed investigation involving the Home Secretary and Oldham Council. Much needed alternative to political cowardice and establishment complicity. And for those of us who have spent years fighting to expose these crimes and the institutional silence that enabled them, any attempt to drag the truth into the light deserves attention. But scrutiny must follow closely behind. So Rupert Lowe said this, and it hurt me. Honestly, it hurt me. And not because I disagree with deporting criminals or anything, I don't. He said, our inquiry will explore the extent to which families and communities were aware of the vile crimes and what social, cultural and religious factors prevented them from intervening. So on the surface, this is the kind of question we've been begging public bodies to ask for over a decade. Peel back the layers of denial, fear, political correctness, and confront the uncomfortable truth. These grooming gangs, these networks, they did not operate in a vacuum. They thrived in specific communities, and I released an article this morning and I posted on X and on Facebook how Pakistanis are 4 times overrepresented. And that's the police stats, not mine. So they thrived in specific communities. We know which communities they thrived in. And they depended on silence, cultural codes, religious interpretations, misinterpretations, and of course tribal loyalty to protect them. But here's the core contradiction. He's saying his inquiry will uncover all of that, yeah? You can't investigate what you can't access. The inquiry wants to explore what communities knew and why they didn't act. These are, of course, vital questions. But to answer them seriously, the inquiry needs 1. First-hand testimony from within those communities. 2. Willing participation from individuals who may fear social, ostracism at best, reputational damage or even violence. And a level of introspection and honesty that the British state, media and community leadership have all failed to demand. Let's be clear. Without meaningful cooperation from the perpetrator community, and I don't mean the Pakistani community in its widest, but the subsection, the perpetrator community, this line of inquiry risks becoming at best partial, and at worst performative. Grandstanding. Nothing. You can't investigate what you can't access. And please, I'm pausing here because I'm supportive. I want to help. And when I read that, I started to panic. Because you can't investigate what you can't access. And please, tell me if I'm being unfair. So what happens if that cooperation never comes? No honest answers about what families suspected on you. No real insight into whether imams, elders or community figures discouraged whistleblowing. No accountability for those who enforced the silence, whether through religious authorities, social pressure, intimidation, whatever. The inquiry becomes a mirror, reflecting only what outsiders see or survivors report, not a window into the internal dynamics that allowed these crimes to flourish. Do you understand what I'm saying? The political sensitivity that always shuts this down. This is where most officials and academics' efforts stop cold. They fear that asking difficult questions of the perpetrator community risks accusations of racism, Islamophobia, or cultural insensitivity. Rupert Lowe claims his inquiry will go there, and that raises the hard, unavoidable question. What mechanisms will be put in place, has he put in place, to earn or force that cooperation? Because without it, this part of the inquiry, this promise, this pledge, becomes more of a moral stance than an investigative process. Again, tell me if I'm being unfair. Over £500,000 have been raised. Many of you have donated, and I support every one of you. And I support this inquiry because I made it clear last week how it can succeed. If the goal is serious truth finding, and it wants to achieve this, the panel must appoint credible Muslim or Pakistani or whatever voices that are trusted in those communities onto the panel, so people with the standing to speak from within, not as outsiders. I'm not on about me, by the way. If he wants to achieve what is claimed, you've got to have credible people from within those communities on the panel who have the standing to speak from within, not as outsiders. It needs to offer robust protection for those who do come forward. I'm telling you, as someone who they've tried to kill for speaking out, and I spoke in the generic. You're asking for people to speak out against their brothers, their fathers, their uncles. On record. Come on. I've shared with you those who I know have spoken out in one of the most prolific cases are in protective custody. Their identities have been changed and all of that. How can you offer robust protection? You can't, can you? And you should. If the goal is serious truth-finding, publicly acknowledge the likelihood of non-cooperation and explain how the inquiry will still attempt to fill those gaps responsibly, rather than gloss over them or demonize an entire community. Let's be brutally honest. We already know that victims tried to speak out and were ignored. We already know police and councils were afraid of being labelled racist. We already know senior officials looked the other way to protect community cohesion and electoral interests. And we already know some offenders came from families or extended networks who were protected. But what remains hidden, and what Rupert in his post on X claims it wants to uncover, is what was going on inside those communities. Did families suspect but stay silent out of shame? Were imams warning against contact with the police? Were imams reciting verses out of the Quran that they believed legitimized this? I don't know, I'm asking you. Did mothers and sisters know what their sons and brothers were doing? What their husbands were doing? Was it cultural loyalty, fear, or religious distortion, religious interpretation that prevented intervention? These are not racist questions. These are the questions that every other inquiry has deliberately avoided in the name of sensitivity. But to ask them meaningfully requires more than bold intentions. It requires access. It requires credibility. It requires trust. And most of all, it requires cooperation from the very communities being investigated. Tell me if I'm being unfair. If this cooperation doesn't materialise, then this inquiry risks joining the long list of well-intended failures. A report that promises truth but retreats from the most necessary, most dangerous parts of it. And I know he'll go there, but he'll go there without the evidence, without the cooperation, without the substance. And then it will be dismissed. Before the 6 years I came on this single subject, immersed day in, day out, I had over 20 years of experience in this field. You can see, and I'm not saying frustration, I'm not saying anger, concern. And I know so many people across this country have invested in this, not just financially, but, you know, with this, with your hearts, as too have I. And when I read that, I thought, no, what's he doing? What is he doing? And again, I agree, deport every bloody criminal who's a foreign national. I don't even think it's contentious. a foreign national come and commit a crime here, deport you. I don't even see that as contentious, not just on this issue, on any issue, on every issue. But to frame that in this context, in this way, I'll be honest with you, I can't see how it can investigate that strand of work in that way. My name is Raja Miah. Before I came to this, what do I say? Guys, I'm here to help. If I will be of help, I am here to help. And I can help with this. I am apolitical. I don't care if you're reform, I don't care if you're independent, I don't care if you're conservative. I care about the children of my town and, as I've found being on this journey, children from across the entire country. I do not believe an opportunity like this will come again. So please, for the love of God, don't squander it. If you find value in my work, please like, please subscribe, please support me with whatever you can, if you can. I've had a couple of subscriptions this evening and a couple of coffees, so thank you to those of you who have. I know there's some announcements coming out of the government this week. I'm sorry, Rose, I don't know why you didn't get the notification. I do nothing other than I post it on YouTube, I post it on X, and I post it on Facebook, I think, as well. So that's what I do in terms of, and everyone knows, I think, is the other thing. That's Sunday night, 9 o'clock, 9 minutes past 9 is when we try and do this. My intention is to come back tomorrow and go into extensive detail as to what Tom Crowther said in his testimony. It will be thorough, it will be detailed, and it will be what I do. In the meantime, if you found value in this transmission, and please, I meant no offence to anyone in sharing what I did, in analysing what I did. I'm trying to help. I'm trying to be of value. Support me if you can. And if you disagree with what I've done, then please drop me a message and I'll try my best to explain and be better if need be. My name is Raja Miah. A very good evening.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East Ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011, he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.